Today we'll be analyzing Zasola Messi, aka Cistern, the world's #1 Symmetra and Torbjorn player who claimed the spot of ranked #1 for DPS in Asia last season. The map is New Queen Street. The ally team comp is a standard Winston Kiriko dive with a Symmetra twist. The enemies are running a D.Va Kiriko dive with a Torbjorn twist. They even have the Zarya flex player Sashin, who you might recognize from the Overwatch League. We start off with a standard push onto the high ground to take control of the first fight, while we poke the enemies with right click. Cistern's first pattern on New Queen Street is to place the teleporter on either under or over the bridge to create an angle or to bait the enemies. Because both the enemy Tracer and Torbjorn have already taken control of the side, he chooses not to take the teleporter and instead poke the enemies out first. As soon as the balance tips in the allies' favor, we can teleport onto the side and contest the enemy Tracer. One of the best things Cistern does on New Queen Street is contesting angles against the enemy DPS by using teleporter. The right-click projectile speed is pretty fast, so it's important to take advantage of the teleporter cooldown to push up and quickly poke. If they come out to rush you down, you can easily poke them away from you and teleport back to safety. After winning the first fight and getting some early poke damage, it isn't unusual that you'll be the first player to build ult out of all 10 players in the lobby. After Cistern breaks the turret, he pushes up using teleporter while contesting the enemies on the first corner. When the enemy D.Va ults, we summon the wall with Wakanda Forever to block the explosion. Popping back and forth using teleporter, we're able to contest both the Kiriko on the side as well as the Tracer flanking in the back. If you naturally let the teleporter disappear, you only have about 4 seconds left on cooldown to reuse the ability, which allows you to naturally chase after disengaging enemies after pushing out the enemy frontline. In the next fight, Cistern pushes up looking for the timing to teleport in. We use the tempo beat to get an early aggression, but since the team wasn't able to get any trades and the beat begins to wear off, we set up a backwards teleporter ahead of time for a quick escape. Basically, Cistern is a player who's highly proficient in reading the flow of the teamfight and is the type of player who thrives on game knowledge and game sense. After placing 2 turrets on the edge of the wall, Cistern sets up a turret bomb to engage, but has to immediately teleport back out with no one else there to take the aggro away. Knowing when to stay and leave is what separates good sim players from bad ones. The ally Sojourn pops overclock to engage. In Sojourn, we trust, so Cistern drops to the low ground and pressures the enemies. We set up the teleporter in an empty space to quickly break the Torb turret for the team and immediately escape back out to safety. The enemy D.Va overstays her welcome, and now that we've caught out the enemy tank, the allies now have the initiative. Cistern sets up a teleporter, but because our ally tank isn't already in the mix, diving and taking the aggro of the enemies, Cistern makes a split-second decision to not teleport in alone, because there are too many enemies surrounding the teleporter. The Kiriko and Tracer blinks over to dive, but we can easily escape with a teleporter to avoid the engage, even setting up turrets on the ground to keep the enemy Tracer at bay. On a side note, Symmetra's ult is super efficient at countering beat and Kitsune rush. While the allies are pushing bot around the corner, we can teleport early to create an angle and grab some space for the team. We utilize a Kitsune rush to beam the enemy D.Va, and when the enemies get baited, we place a teleporter in the back, taking the entirety of D.Va's attention with us. Our ally Kiriko, San Francisco Shock's Finn, wins the ego duel, and after teleporting to the Mega Health Pack room, Cistern fortifies with turrets at all entry points, then proceeds to poke the enemies from cover. If the enemies take the bait, you can hold your ground while using the turrets, teleporter, and a health pack to keep yourself alive, but it's extremely important to stay inside of the fortress when you don't have the space advantage. This way, when the enemies approach bot, you can set up a crossfire into the enemy team. Like mentioned before, Cistern counters the enemy beat with Wakanda. The key tip here is to place the turrets near the edges of the barrier and punish enemies that get into your effective range while jiggling between the wall. Push maps in particular have a very simplified map design which allows you to utilize various patterns for each fight. With the allies in control of the space, Cistern teleports up the stairs to scout the enemies from the side. The enemies that try to play objective become easy targets for Symmetra. With the teleport allowing her to take multiple angles in a single fight, the Symmetra has to be a priority for the enemy team to get rid of, and if the teleporter isn't destroyed in the process, Sim can just pop back in, punishing the engage. You probably have a good idea of how the strategy works by now. You first start by placing a teleporter around cover near the expected teamfight location to create an opening for the allies. If the enemies don't react, you can camp out in your new position to freely deal damage into the enemy flank, effectively creating additional angles for your team. If the enemies start responding, you can escape out with teleporter and try again when the cooldown ends. There's essentially no risk to playing this strategy as long as you properly assess when you can stay or leave. When the enemies try to disengage around the corner, you can go for an aggressive teleporter to chase down kills. It's almost like an unlimited tracer blink to get you in and out at your convenience. Cistern rotates to the stairs again to farm ult charge. Seeing the enemy Mei and Lucio, we know that our allies are not under much threat. To prepare for the teamfight, we set up the teleporter early, and once we see the enemies regroup, we teleport back out and voila. As soon as we get marked, Cistern TP's back again and sets up turrets as insurance against Tracer while returning back to the fight. By maintaining the side angle, we were even able to shut down the enemy Lucio ult. Another great thing about sim turrets are that enemies can't simply ignore them unless they want to get punished, so it's a great way to shift the aggro away from you and onto the deployables during emergencies, effectively reducing the damage you take. Cistern thinks about ulting, but you can see him restrain himself after assessing the status of the fight. With the ally tank gone and having no positional advantage, it's not worth investing further. It's the final fight, and Cistern takes control of the high ground bridge, poking the enemies for free. You can see that he's saving his turrets to get maximum value out of his ultimate, and we don't engage until our tank is healthy and ready to go. Time is on our side, and losing composure is the worst way to handle an overtime scenario. We set up a teleport bomb, but the enemies quickly disengage from the ult. Kitsune Rush gets used, allowing us to rush down the enemies, and can't forget the teleporter to pop into the backline while the attention is on our tank. With only cleanup kills left, the match comes to a close for a dub. Hope you enjoyed the #1 Symmetra analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.